Okay, guys, so these are particularly tricky, will cause some twinging kind of feelings at the Social Security disability hearing that you're going to be going to. So I want you to understand right up front that these are very difficult questions, and the judges are starting to ask them. And the good questions. And what they're about are mostly the vocational aspect of this whole process. Remember, there's five, elements, the five-step sequential process, and element 4 and 5 are about past work that you've done, other types of work you could do. Cool. So bottom line is this: these particular questions hit right to the home of where you've worked. And they are good, but they also kind of suck because they put you on defense and you have to wiggle waggle your way through them to be able to be successful. Let's go through them. Here is the first question. But first, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, and please remember to leave a review on Google, Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Here we go. Here's the first question: what accommodations did they give you to try and keep you at your prior work? Or did they not try to keep you? Oh, that's a good one. It's a very, very saucy question, and here's the reason why. That question opens up the possibility of how much you attempted to try and be with them and how much they attempted to try and keep you. Because the more accommodations a job is trying to give you, the more likely they want you to stay because you do a good job. But if they're not really giving you accommodations, then you're probably not worth their time and energy to try and give accommodations to. So let me read it to you again so you can kind of get the flavor of it real quick. What accommodations did they give you to try and keep you at that prior job? Or did they not try to keep you at that prior job? And that is such a saucy question because it brings up essentially this idea that you were not potentially worth actually receiving accommodations to keep you, giving you a break, more time to do things, etc. These accommodations. Here comes question number 2. Okay. Which accommodations did you request and which did not? Right? So it's under the assumption that you probably asked for accommodations. But let's say you never did ask for accommodations, right? Let's say that you were like, I can't do it. I can't do it. But then you didn't make the effort to ask for these accommodations, which ultimately resulted in, basically a situation where, let's just be very fair here. Let's be very fair here, right? If you're not asking for accommodations, you're not really attempting to keep that job. Very saucy, very saucy. Which accommodations, number 3, which accommodations were you given and which were you denied? That's another personal favorite. When I hear that one, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Which accommodations were you given and which were you denied? Because think about it. You could have asked for a bunch of accommodations and they could have given you some of them, but they might not have given you all of them. So if you then had to say, well, actually, I requested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 accommodations and they only gave me 2, that tells the judge a lot. Tells him where or her where that particular employer's mind was at, what they were willing to give that person to keep them. Very, very interesting, and I think that's a really incredible thing to think about it because that's a judge diving very deeply into the psychology of essentially where that other job was at and where your brain was at with trying to keep that job. Okay, were you just trying to have the job for a little bit and get rid of it, or are you fighting to keep this job? Number 4, how long did you receive those accommodations? And the other way I've heard it is basically, what accommodations did you receive and for how long were you receiving them? That's another way that they usually phrase it. So the bottom line is, if you're at a job and they're giving you accommodations, the judge wants to know, did you have it for 2 months? Did you have it for 6 months? Did you have it for a whole year, 12 months? Or was it something much, much, much smaller where you only had it for a very short period of time? And so my whole logic here, my whole thinking with this situation is the judge is really getting at something that's really important, which is, even with those accommodations, why couldn't you hack it? Why couldn't you do that job? Why couldn't you make it happen? And how long did you have them for? And if you had them for that amount of time, what changed in you or the employer's mind to end that job? Of course, the question that they always hide in here is, did you quit? Did you get fired? Were you laid off? What happened? That's the underlying question you'll always see with these types of questions. But now let's hit number 5. Why did the accommodations fail? We don't always hear this question. Sometimes we hear, why did your medications fail? Why did the surgery fail? We'll hear them in that phrasing. But I think one of the important things is, why did the accommodations that you received fail? And the reason this is a super duper important question is because it asks, okay, with all of your impairments in mind and all of your medications in mind, why couldn't you still do that job with all of these accommodations in mind? It's not a simple question. It's not like, do you have a driver's license? It's a much, much, much more complex question. I loved it. I thought it was great. My clients were, in the very beginning when these started coming out, not super prepared for them. Now they're super prepared for them. But the point is, I thought these were really, really interesting questions because they force a lot of psychological assessment as to the situation of what they could do when it comes to work. Because remember, out of the 5 elements, 2 of them are all about what types of jobs you've done, what types of jobs you're going to be doing in the future. So there's this significant emphasis on these types of questions. And I think more of these types of questions are going to be relevant into the future. Because remember, way back in the day, they wouldn't ask a ton of questions about what you did your past work, what happened with them. Now the Social Security Administration is heavily leaning on the judges to ask about the work that they had, what they did, what was going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these questions are right in line with it. I'm going to do a quick summary of these questions one more time, and then we're going to go to the big video about 10 minutes after this video ends, where I answer questions from the general population. Here we go. Number 1, what accommodations did they give you to try at your prior work? And were you able, sorry, let me read it to you again. What accommodations did they give you to try and keep with your prior work? Or did they not try to keep you? That's number 1. Number 2, which accommodations did you request at your prior job? And which did you not? Number 3, which accommodations were you given at your prior job and which were denied? Number 4, okay, how long did you receive accommodations? Super important. Make sure you have a time lined out. Number 5, why did the accommodations fail? Oh, that last question is so difficult, so incredibly difficult. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed these. They are kind of the future of where disability questions are going for past work. I will catch you at the next video where we'll be answering questions directly on the phone. You know how it works. Every Thursday, I go live. I bring up my special microphone holder, which has no microphone in it because the phone goes in it. And the bottom line is this: we will begin to answer questions from anybody that calls in from all over the world. And that's super duper amazing. But remember, use a fake name. You get about 5 to 7 minutes. Have your legal question ready. And here we go. I will see you guys in 10 minutes. And we will go ahead. I have to charge the phone. That's why. And we will go ahead and get ready with that next video. See you soon. All right. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.